Welcome to Toylanta.
We're just talking football.
Let's give everybody.
So this is David Vonner. I'm going to do the introduction. If you guys don't know him,
Do better.
that's wild. And I'm Brett.
Who?
Brett Barton.
Who?
Not familiar.
Star Wars. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole again.
He's the cousin of Clint Barton.
Yeah.
You know who Clint Barton is, right?
Yes.
Oh, you Marvel fans?
He's a DC guy.
Oh,
sorry,
God.
We also know who War Machine is.
Yeah, we do.
I'm War Machine. I am War Machine.
The official
I'm
War
actually
Machine of the
reason why
Purple Gang
Don Cheadle
Gang.
made
Yeah,
me
the official War Machine.
a whole nother story. Actually, Terrence Howard's a good friend. I chat with him all the time. He's a real good dude, helping him on a secret project.
Speaking of projects, is there anything we want to talk about involving the independent toy industry?
Yeah, so I mean, thank you guys for coming. The number one thing I want to actually say before even jumping into the projects is thank you all so much for supporting not only what I work on, but supporting me for so many years. And the independent toy movement is special. It's just growing and growing and growing, and it's like I never thought in a million years that I would take all the knowledge that was passed on to me by certain individuals and be in a position to pass that on. So like right now, with independent, showcases like this, showcasing independent projects and products and everything, and photographers and sculptors, like we have the power right now to be able to do some cool stuff and not have to rely on the traditional toy companies or different entertainment companies to wait forever to showcase what we love, and then it's not right. Now we actually have the power, we have the technology, we have the individuals to do so much and actually create an economic force for ourselves. So that's like my main thing, to show not only our staying power, but our revenue power, being able to share and teach other guys how to do things and basically just circle our own wagons around ourselves. This is how the NFL got big, and even Mattel and Hasbro. I was just telling somebody, just recently, man, I don't think that Ruth Handler ever thought that she would have an HR department. Think of that trajectory when you go from wanting to do a toy to actually having a whole corporate toy organization where now you have all these different entities involved. So it's like we right now have the power to grow and do not only amazing things and have amazing products, but actually expand and create amazing opportunities for other individuals to get into. So, I love you, brother. Thank you so much, man, because I know that your passion is just as strong as all of ours, and this is your calling. This is what you're doing and providing space for all of us. So I can't appreciate you more from the bottom of my heart, man. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So what y'all meant was, he said, we have the power.
We have
That's
the power.
what I heard.
Man, I didn't even
I did. There was a couple of nods to things. I was like, don't jump. Don't interrupt. But we have the power.
And I'm a big movie nerd
I was
too,
thinking
so.
Bionic Man.
We have the technology.
We
I was
got
gonna
the
make. We
technology.
did.
And $6 Million Man was my, other than Big Bird, my first major superhero, and the first franchise that I fell in love with, and to this day I still mimic Steve Austin by running around, and in my mind I'm having the bionic sounds in my head.
And that's the bottom line.
Not that Steve Austin, but I like to drink now when we're talking about beer. I like that Steve Austin. I like that, but it's just fun. You never know the power of what you grew up on and how it motivates you in ways that you never even thought. In my darkest days of being depressed, man, just that whole, we can rebuild them, we can make them stronger, better, stronger, faster. Those are words of encouragement, for self, to build up your own self-esteem. You know, when you're in those moments of doubt or depression or like things are just collapsing, if you just, for me, when I revert to like pop culture things, you know, like, the Kobayashi Maru, or being a bionic man, you know, or like Thor is my favorite superhero, you know, being honorable and worthy, you know what I mean? It's like those things actually help me get out of that depressive hump in order to keep on going, you know? So it's like, you know, all of this is way more important than we can even imagine, you know, and it's just so cool to be in a position where, you know, I never thought that I would be, you know, friends with Stan Lee, friends with Bob Layton, and you know, talk to people, you know, like John Byrne and all these heroes that I grew up on reading these comic books, you know, and it's like, man, not only do we share the same moral experiences and all that, but now, especially being a father, we share even more. Or like, you know, it's just so much more we can all bond, and it shows us that we're more similar than we are different.
Yes, sir. We were finishing sentences the other night.
I know,
It was pretty
I know.
rad. It was pretty rad.
You big man, baby.
No,
That's an inside joke.
Yeah, thanks for the editing. Thanks for the editing. Appreciate that.
Did the guy come over with the Blade outfit on and come over?
Yeah, I
and
saw
sent him
Blade.
up there.
Yeah, and I mean, like, you know, Blade is not valued enough as being the movie that saved Marvel. You know, especially with me coming into Marvel after bankruptcy and everything, and one of the first things we worked on was Blade and Blade 2, which is Blade 2 is my favorite Marvel movie ever, like ever. It's a superhero and a horror movie, you know. But the fact that, you know, whenever I see someone dressing up as Blade, man, it's like it takes me back to like the Toy Biz times, man, where it was just young, scrappy designers, you know, like comic book guys and illustrators and like animators, and none of us were actually toy design people. Like, we never went to you know, toy development programs or industrial design and all that stuff.
That's
We were
definitely
just,
important to some folks. Though.
yeah, it is. If it's especially if you allow it to be important, you know, it's like the label of being this, or the label of being that. But if you have a passion for something, you can defy the label, and that's kind of like what Toy Biz was.
Give me an individual with drive.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what you talk. I want to see a dude with drive. See what they can create.
Yeah.
Parameters don't matter. Let's see what happens here.
And that's really been the Marvel way. You know, Marvel was like, you know, Stan Lee wasn't the traditional writer. Jack Kirby definitely wasn't the traditional artist, you know, but the magic that they created, you know, despite all the other stuff of what's fair and where money went, you know, Stan Lee created a vehicle for these artists to be able to express themselves and showcase themselves in ways that probably no other entity would have gave them that lane to do, you know, and how it just impacted so much and so many people that it still resonates to this day. Like, it's still like that was the Big Bang, and it's still going to the point now that we can actually take that same independent spirit and apply that to all the other stuff that we're doing.
Exactly. And some of that stuff, the passion and all that was kind of moved around by suits and transformed into something a little more commercial than personal. You know, there are other.
I mean,
you know,
and the suits have their intentions,
yes,
you know, like,
there are intentions.
but sometimes, like, the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
That's right.
You know, so, but with that, I mean, it took suits in order to, you know, make certain, you know, things happen, like the Transformers movie. Like, how do we actually position this product in a better light? Well, let's have a movie, and let's get some writers and all this other stuff to make it so good that you can't even see what's behind it.
Right.
You know,
Creating
so
giants.
right. So those suits and that mentality is important. You know, it's like the yin and the yang. You gotta have, you know, like similar properties of both. The creativity and the business side. You know, sometimes certain things may not work out, but in the long run, you can create these legacies that is just so endearing, you know, to the fan base. And so it's cool to be able to actually see all the parts of the spectrum of that. Like I'm, you know, like obviously a big comic book fan, cartoon fan, sci-fi fan, you seeing all that stuff through the TV screen or reading the books. But then when you work with these companies and you get the inside baseball, now you know the rhyme and the reason why things happen. But applying those same ideas, like, hey, we can actually make something independent work if we apply all the steps that can make a product work.
Or what maybe some of the bigger companies aren't hitting in what we actually want, you know, and doing something that is, you know, in the spirit of, but with a little bit of, you know, flavor.
Yeah,
spice.
that was always like, that was my thing. It's funny you said that, because my thing was like, my phrase was, we need to bring the funk. It needs to have that stank to it. That was actually, like, when I worked on, if anyone doesn't know, I worked at Toy Biz, and Toy Biz like started Marvel Legends, and that actually started because of Spider-Man Classics, which was created by Damon Nee, and then Marvel Legends was created by Jesse Falcon. I worked under Damon Nee directly, and he's actually, Damon is one of my favorite Marvel artists of all time. Like, this dude is like, I mean, just super good, but actually to see it play out the way that it did, like him putting it on paper, it inspired me to do the same thing and have that same creative vision, or like articulate that creative vision. And we wound up having like these dope sculptors, man, Steve Kulis and Dave Cortez and Phil Ramirez, and these guys weren't like, you know, professional sculptors, and you know, these were just people. Like Steve had that experience, but Dave and Phil were just like guys who were crazy talented, who wanted to showcase their talent. And Toy Biz gave them the opportunity to create, you know, the things that, you know, we would design in a way where it was three-dimensional. And what came out of that was just so fantastic, man. Like, it was like being on the verge of creating rock and roll, or creating hip hop, or like working for NASA, going to, like, how we figure out going to the moon. I don't know.
Trailblazer.
But then when we come back, it's like, yo, we went to the moon. Like, you know, so like when we look at Marvel Legends now, it's amazing. So going to Hasbro, that's when I learned all these other factors that came into play. Like, you know, dealing with all these different departments that Toy Biz didn't have. Like, we didn't have a marketing department. We had like one person doing marketing. and actually, like, the characters were treated like athletes. So, you know, they were the ones that pushed the business of Marvel, not like an actual team of humans pushing what Marvel should be. It was very different. And Hasbro was super buttoned up, so it was just a crazy experience, but it taught me that there's a mechanism or a rhythm to the madness of how you create this stuff. And but then, like, it's those subtle nuances too that you just can't explain. Like tapping into fanhood, talking their knowledge or their language and everything, and bringing out something that isn't necessarily on a plan, you know, a marketing plan, or this is the economic mark we gotta hit. Sometimes you just gotta go with what you know.
Maybe it's lightning in a bottle.
And let that happen. And, you know, Toy Biz created a lot of lightning in the bottle, so it was hard for other companies to recreate that. So we learned the methods of how you create the lightning rod and the bottle, you know, so.
For those of you guys that didn't stay up till like 3 a.m. the other night, this is Cliff Notes from our conversation.
Part of it.
Well, yeah. What we can say that it's filmed, yes, absolutely.
But it's very cool just to really talk about all this and partake and be like a leader in this whole movement, you know, and I think there's so much that we can do as far as not only product, but, you know, animation and photography.
Sky's the limit.
The sky's the limit, you know, and if we just value each other's perceptions, you know, value each other's decisions and creative views, then we can really start making some waves, you know, so.
I think there's already some waves, man.
Yeah,
I think there is.
yeah. Look what you're doing, man.
I ain't doing nothing.
This convention is dope. I mean, like when you look around, like I mean, it's full, it's buzzing, right? I mean, it's got a whole bunch of different. Like everybody's like here. You know?
You guys can put a big applause track over that, right? All right, good deal.
And this man has been working hard, like for months, putting this together, and he's been running around like a chicken with his head cut off.
Yep.
You know, but he's been answering the call and, you know, trying to, you know, make everyone happy and doing so much. So he's been so accommodating. And it's so funny what you're doing right now. I remember when Stan Lee was telling me when San Diego Comic-Con started, it was in a room like this, like a room, you know, and they, you know, they didn't have any toys or movies to show, or like they just had a table with some comic books on there and Stan telling the story. And then just from that, look how it grew. My first convention was a Star Trek convention. It was kind of like the same thing, except my mom walking in talking Klingon. It was just very and I was like, what? And she made me like learn the Klingon language. Like that's my homework. That's what I had to do. And I'm like, are you serious right now? Like, how am I going to explain this to my teacher that I spent all night learning Klingon?
You can never be too prepared.
You can't be. You cannot be. So, but it's cool to be able to like talk like these deep cuts and everybody, you know, knows what's going on. We can talk about like, you know, the Klingon language, or like my mom is always dropping like some kind of jewel that Yoda said, you know, and like Yoda and Captain Kirk and Miss Piggy is like her trifecta. Like that's it, you know, and but she always like kicked it to me in a way where, you know, breaking down really complicated situations, you know, boiling down to something where I can understand, which is why I love comic books, which is why it taught me how to be in diverse situations and to take in different individuals, you know, like, you know, from a thunder god like Thor to a regular person like Peter Parker, how that reflects our society and how, you know, it shows, you know, personality traits in us and how we work with individuals like that, you know, dealing with someone who's angry like the Hulk, but meek like Bruce Banner. Like, how do you actually interact with a person like that?
Everybody be quiet. Nobody say anything.
Don't say nothing.
Not till the weekend's over.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there may have been a Hulk moment or two.
Yeah, but I mean, I learned a lot of moral situations from that. So the importance of learning all that stuff from pop culture, like from, you know, $6 Million Man and Marvel comic books and all sorts of things, like really pushed me to be here. And then working at Toy Biz is like, man, now I'm dealing with real life superheroes, you know, so it taught me how to not only navigate in these circles, but also what's important in these circles too. And then, you know, illustrate it in a way where it could be fun, it could be challenging, it could be educational, it could be exciting, you know, it could be all that stuff, and you can actually like live your life doing that stuff.
What is important is smiles on faces, a good time, because we come out here, buy a toy that's cool, you know, it's cool, but you know, hanging out with your friends,
Yeah.
those memories, that's one thing for the next time. I mean, that's getting on a Saturday night phone call with a group of people because you met them at toy shows. It's getting on the Purple Gang.
The Purple Gang. Now, I'm gonna tell you something about the Purple Gang. I mean,
Very progressive.
I mean, very few men can pull on purple. You got Prince, Skeletor, and this man right here. Now, when you look at this outfit, baby, I don't know what kind of material it is.
I want one.
If it's the two aunts from hell, Polly and Esther, I don't know. But my man is working it to the bone. It look like it's silk. I don't know what it is, but brother, you doing it.
It's comfortable.
That's what it is. That's what it is. I wouldn't wear no drawers wearing that.
Who says I am?
There you go. This is the kind of
Don't threaten me with a good time.
Right?
Listen, I will be butt naked underneath that, and wear no safety or security, and that's outfit right there. That's beautiful.
I'll send you the Sheen link.
But yeah, man, anybody got any questions or anything? Or anything?
It's Q&A time.
Let's change the topic.
I know, because I can get real dirty real fast. Yes, sir.
So I'm Christopher Davis from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. I actually interviewed David for a preview for this event and just his career. So we talked a little bit on the phone about how hip hop influenced your work and your approach to just your designs. Could you share with the crowd how hip hop really influenced your designs and your approach to toys?
You know, it's wild. My mom gave me her Sugar Hill Gang album 2 weeks after it came out. Like, so she introduced me not only to Marvel Comics, but introduced me to hip hop too. And man, it changed my life, man. It gave me like, beyond the dance and the rhythm and hearing these voices and seeing these like, you know, young black faces like doing all this stuff, it gave me like this backbone. And actually, fun fact, my best friend Jason Haywood, where's he at? He stepped out good.
Like a good best friend.
Right. He actually, like, when we were kids, he created one of the first, like, he had a whole album. He was in a group, another Deaf Creation. So he was a real rapper. Like, he was really on the album cover, like, driving a Volvo at 16 years old, looking like a drug dealer, but he was a recording artist. And it was so wild, man, how it impacted us, but it gave us a voice to be able to, like, you know, stand on our own, and sometimes a lot of us, like, we learn business, you know, from that, we learned our history from that, we learned so much, like, so much confidence, and that's what hip hop did for me. And because I wasn't like a rapper, but I had the energy of a rapper, I wanted to infuse that into like my art.
Like a hype man.
Yeah, like for instance, like Stan Lee's the greatest hype man ever. Like him and Flavor Flav.
I was gonna rebuttal that.
Stan Lee
Not
is
my wheelhouse right now.
like
You take that
when
right.
you watch like the old like Spider-Man is Made Friends or the '80s Hulk cartoon, and you hear Stan Lee's voice.
True Believers.
That's like Flavor Flav hyping up the crowd, you know. So and thinking of all these different comic book, you know, characters and relating them to hip hop, you know, like you got Run DMC. Well, man, this could be like the Warriors 3. You know, and actually, DMC's rhymes, he was a big Thor fan, so like he just changed the story. It was really talking about Marvel Comics, but he just changed it from superheroes to street stuff. So like, it gave me so much power to be myself, and then I infused that power into designing or like pitching, like, and that's another thing that you have to do in this toy world is to pitch your idea to senior management in rooms like this, or you know, like stakeholders, shareholders in a company, and they're looking at you like, I want to be entertained. Like, how am I selling this product? What are you doing? So it's like you gotta like actually like kick it, like you gotta, you know, kick it to them in a way where they can understand. And hip hop gave me that confidence to voice what a fan would say in that fan approach and having that fan anxiety. So like especially when Hasbro acquired the Marvel license from Toy Biz, which was unique in and of itself, and you know, no company had acquired a toy line from another company that was as beloved as Marvel Legends, but the company was as hated as Hasbro. Like, people hated Hasbro. When I mean, it was hell was breaking loose, and people were like, you know, threatening. The sky was falling. And to make matters worse internally was people at Hasbro didn't understand Marvel. Because you had two camps at Hasbro. You had the Kenner camp and you had the Hasbro camp. And Kenner was all about like Star Wars, and Star Wars actually was considered a mega brand, like a core brand at Hasbro. So you had the Kenner side, and then you had the Hasbro side with G.I. Joe, and then you had, you know, Transformers, which was from Takara in Japan. And part of, so it's like you had all these different camps, and then this red-headed stepchild called Marvel comes into the mix, and no one got it, and no one. It was like you pay attention to the brand that you own, and not the brand that you rent. And at that time, Marvel was the brand that was being rented, not owned. So there was just so much misunderstanding and no understanding of the Marvel brand at Hasbro. So what I had to do was actually do like a seminar where it was called Widening the Web. I'll never forget it, and teaching the Hasbro people internally in all these departments about what Marvel, actually what Spider-Man is, because it was widening the web. And Marvel was the byproduct. Because at that time, Spider-Man, the movie was the, 800-pound gorilla. But Marvel was like, and you got all these other characters. Like, Hawkeye's the guy running around in a purple suit. I'm sorry, purple thing. You know.
He's Barton, he's not that
but
bad,
like
I'm saying.
Thor's my favorite superhero of all time. And not because of the obvious, clearly, but because like his father was like the father I wish I had. And the worthiness was something that I wanted to aspire to. So, but in the eyes of people at Hasbro, Thor was the guy that ran around in the dress. And I was like, he's never done that. And that was real words and real concern, particularly with the Thor movie.
My eyes gonna twitch.
So it was such a misunderstanding of what Marvel was, and because of that misunderstanding, there was no true confidence in it being a true business, like a true economic deliverable.
How can we make money off this right now?
Right.
Not a big picture.
So,
where is this gonna go?
Right, and Marvel Legends, to me, in my opinion, Marvel Legends is, you can't get any closer to the comic books than Marvel Legends. No movie, no cartoon, no video. Like Marvel Legends is the direct line from the comic books to a product. And
3D versions of the book.
right, like the characters falling right out. So people didn't even understand that. They didn't want that, and they definitely they hated the scale. It's too big, it's too expensive, and all this other stuff. And they wanted to kill Marvel Legends. And Jesse Falcon, who is the creator of Marvel Legends, and now he's our guy that we got to go to for approvals. He was literally getting physically ill, that Hasbro was sabotaging the line. They wanted to kill it, and there was talks about death. Thanos' love interest being the last figure in the coffin. That's the end of Marvel. That was a real conversation. Like death, we're gonna do death, and this is gonna be the end of Marvel Legends. And I was like, we can't do that. Like, we cannot do that. But
Take it literal, the guys.
But what was actually happening was, because of Hasbro's tradition of 3/4 inch, we need to do it our way and do Marvel in 3/4 inch. So, I love 3/4 inch because, like G.I. Joe, I used to take my action figures to school with me and get in trouble, having stuff in my pocket, and I just felt that connection. So I was like, we're going to do Marvel 3/4 inch, but we're not going to do 3/4 inch the way that Hasbro does it, And quite honestly, internally, Hasbro hated the way that their approach was. And what I actually did to sell the whole thing, Zach Oates, who worked at the time for Wizard and Toy Fair magazine, I had created a diorama of a Sentinel, and I only had like Wolverine and Spider-Man, Colossus. I think I had like a Marvel girl. I might have had a Beast, like an original Beast or something like that. But I had matter of fact, it was kind of like classic X-Men. Well, the X-Men Annual #1. It was that, and I didn't show it to any senior management. What we did was show it to Zach so he could report it to Toy Fair magazine, therefore creating the inevitable buzz of needing to have this line.
You mean like a leak?
Right. So I immediately went to the fan base, not to our bosses, to get it out there.
Or a
And
novel approach.
but they hated that, and they didn't understand why we were going to do a 3/4 inch line like Marvel Legends. And and especially when they wanted to kill Marvel, because they wanted just 6 points of articulation, like a Star Wars figure.
I mean, there is a place for that.
No, it's not. Because no, it's not. You know why? Because Magneto would destroy Darth Vader. in a heartbeat. I love Yoda, but he ain't got nothing on Charles Xavier. You know what I'm saying? Like,
People love the reaction line, it's just not my thing.
but I didn't look at it as a line. I looked at it as a part of my life. You know what I mean? Like how, and comic books is a life experience. So how do you translate Charles Xavier being this man in a wheelchair as being more powerful than Yoda? How do you showcase how Magneto can be more devastating than Darth Vader? How do you do that? Because they have movies. They can show that in a way where our imagination can take that, whereas Marvel, particularly like this toy line, doesn't. There were no movies. Or you looking at a whack. Some people don't even know of the Doctor Strange movie that was done in the 70s, or the David Hasselhoff Punisher.
Nick Fury?
You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm sorry, Nick Fury, David Hasselhoff.
Not to correct, you know.
But the Dolph Lundgren Punisher. You know what I mean? And like these things, when I was angry, like I love Lou Ferrigno's Hulk. I'll never forget the Hulk versus Thor. I cried. That was the first letter I wrote to Marvel. Like, why did you destroy Thor so much? And running on the beach with Lou Ferrigno, I was like, what?
I think it was kind of
Him
like
and Donald Blake
mirroring
were two
maybe a
different
Rocky
people.
film at the time, or you know, something.
No.
Training montages.
No, I didn't know. It was none of that. And then that Hulk Daredevil with the black costume, you know, the Fix had like, he looked like Dom DeLuise. I'm like, what are we doing? Now, I love seeing it and getting that play, but it was like, man, we can't compete to Star Wars. You know, we can't compete to like Indiana Jones. So how do we fight our fight? You know, like it's no fair fight. You know, so my thing is 3 3/4 Marvel has to look like it can destroy Star Wars and G.I. Joe, like destroy them. And that was my approach. And that thinking actually created a conflict internally with me and the Hasbro company. Not like with a team, the company. They were all against that.
Some people say that Universe line was the best thing that they did 3 3/4.
Y'all don't know the fight that was involved with
Some
that.
say.
I'm fighting like internal sculptors and like my bosses and everything. So luckily I did have a few champions, but you know, it was a testament to like basically sticking to your guns and what you believe in and believing in the power of Marvel. You know, so that's why the Marvel Universe wound up becoming what it was, and that actually laid the foundation for Marvel Legends to come back, because we wound up utilizing like the same sculpts, some of the similar characters.
You still need that apocalypse and that scale if anybody's listening.
Well, we need a high evolutionary too, somebody in the living tribunal, you know, all that stuff, you know. So it was just like, how do we take this out of the dirt and the murk and make it like what it should be? And it was really like, you know, just relying on what Jesse Falcon laid out for Marvel Legends. I want the same thing for Marvel Universe. But, you know, you just gotta believe in yourself, believe in what inspired you to bring out that passion. And like that's what we did. And then that became a philosophy of, you know, like let's continue this fight. Because Marvel Legends was always viewed to me as like an independent line. You know? Yeah, so it was like, you know, let's keep that going and bring that independent spirit to everything.
I think you have an independent spirit.
But to go all the way back to the original question, hip hop did that for me. You know what I'm saying? Like hip hop is all about independence and everything, and stand up for yourself, and like, you know, kind of faking it till you make it. And I had to do all that stuff to make it all work and stand on business, but like be confident, you know, and like learning the game and even when I'm talking to different creatives who's working on it, like talk to them in a hip hop sense, you know, and like just having that confidence where there is no fear. We're just gonna do what we do. You know, this is our block. We're gonna own the block. We're gonna rap about the block. We're gonna. I was like, man, we selling crap. And I was like, and this is the Carter, and we're gonna take over, like the Carter, like I had the whole New Jack City thing, you know, and I was like, man, we gotta sell this like Nino Brown, then we gonna do it, you know, with a little bit of Scarface and all that stuff, so it was like, all that stuff helped me like, kinda like, for me, like, understand the game, and that's how I always reference this too, so that's how hip-hop like kinda helped me, like, and it was an influence, not only that, but also my drawing style, like drawing graffiti, you know, and having that, graffiti's all about breaking the rules, you know, and you know, doing something that's totally different, that's, you know, utilizing color. And it's funny, I actually suffer from color blindness. I didn't know until I was 19 years old. And being a professional artist, now I'm scared, like, you know, I can't tell any, like, Superman don't walk around saying, hey, I suffer from kryptonite, you know what I mean, like, it's gonna mess me up. So, like, I was actually, you know, when I found out that I was actually colorblind, I was afraid to tell anyone that I worked with that I actually was colorblind, but it helped me so much to think outside the box. You know, I had to figure out color by, like, either math, like I know 50% yellow and 50% red makes orange. Or I had to do all this crazy stuff on the computer, like when Photoshop came out, like, you know, with the color palette, like mixing up all these numbers. So I'm figuring out by math. So, you know, now I'm applying this new way of learning of how to actually make a color. So my definition of colors is like, I can't.
It's coding.
Right, like I can't see like maybe a brown or a taupe. I gotta go through all these different metrics to figure out what that color is. But it helped me create a whole new language of color, you know, so, but it was like that fear, like I could either be scared or just stand on business and rock with it.
So you were kind of afraid that it might affect you getting a job?
I
and
did,
your
man,
work,
I was
and it
afraid the
turned
checks
out
wasn't gonna come
exactly
in,
like that.
because there ain't a lot of brothers in this business, if y'all don't know that or not. So I was afraid that, man, the first one, the last one hired, the first one fired kind of thing. Like, man, you can't see colors, and that's always a thing.
You didn't even know your shirt was red.
You see,
Star
and that's the
Trek
thing, like
reference.
when people say they're colorblind, the first question is, yo, what color is this? What color is this? What color is that? And I'm like, yo, I'm not an idiot, right? Like I can see things, it's just that I see it a little bit different than you, you know, so, you know, with that, it just like, it created this fear that if I let anyone know, it's gonna stop my ability to secure my family. Like I had a wife, I had a daughter, you know what I mean? I didn't want that to impact them, so it's like, how do I figure this out? Like, how do I figure out how to utilize, you know, this information to nobody else to know or to realize?
Secrets.
But it wound up giving me this weird confidence, like, all right, you know, over time, I just got like more confident in the approach and like explaining that, particularly to interns, because they would come to you like, hey, I'm limited in this, limited in that. I'm like, well, you know what? I'm colorblind. I can't see, so I got a limitation too. Why are you gonna let that be in the way? You know, so now it's like I'm more confident with expressing that, and it shouldn't, you know, it doesn't, you know, gauge if you can be a good artist or not. Art is all about thinking outside the box. And hip hop is all about thinking outside the box. So with that, it was like, all right, if I got a lisp and I want to be the best rapper, then I'm going to be the best rapper with a lisp. If I'm colorblind and I'm an artist, designing toys, I'm going to try to be the best colorblind toy designer I can be. And that was hip hop.
Thank you.
Anybody got any other questions? I'm sorry, I can ramble.
Well, it's not really a question, it's more like a support with the question that you brought up. I was gonna say, working for a company like that, was it like a status quo? Did you like fall in line when you worked for like Marvel? Or, well, since you brought up the hip hop, it seemed like it was a different dynamic that you brought to the company, so.
Yeah, you definitely had to fall in line.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of felt like at Toy Biz, because Toy Biz had owned Marvel, it was really cool because everything came out of the toy, like video games and the up and coming movies. It was all like following the toys, not like the movie has to be the lead, and the toys gotta follow. The toys was on top. But at Hasbro, that's when I realized it was a pecking order. And like before that, I wrote that Spencer Gibbs, so we did things seasonal, like, you know, Halloween, and then we doing Kiss, and then we doing like, you know, Valentine stuff, and you know, so it was always things that was going on. But at Hasbro, it was like this crazy pecking order, and Marvel was always on the bottom. So it was like, how do we figure this out, you know, and apply what we figure out to have Marvel be so serious, you know, kind of taken seriously. So that was like a new thing for me to follow along this like order, especially when it came to funds. Like, I'm giving you some inside baseball, but like Marvel's royalty was 25%. So right off the bat, you got a quarter taken out of your dollar when you're trying to produce a product. And you know, while everyone else was crying like, oh man, like we don't have any money, I'm like JJ from Good Times. I'm like, shit, like we got 75 cents? You know what I mean? Like shit, that's better than nothing.
I don't mind.
You know, we can get some Big Macs and some Kool-Aid, you know, so it was how do you manage those dollars wisely to get the best out of it? So sometimes you gotta hustle and talk, and you know, like, you know, find other ways where that can pay off. And do, like, if you don't have that in your budget, you gotta be real creative of how you get those big budget returns with no budget. So it was like finding the best young sculptor that is looking for an opportunity, like how I work with like Gentle Giant and Sam Greenwell and stuff like that. But you just had to be creative with your money, with your budget, and that dictates everything. So staying up like 2 nights in a row, drawing concepts and control art and all that other stuff, like by yourself, and you got to do that, you know, because you don't have the team that you know Transformers has, or G.I. Joe, you know, or shit, Play-Doh had a bigger team. You know, Monopoly had a bigger team than us. You know what I'm saying?
Of course they did.
So it was like, damn, like we gotta be scrappy with everything. And then Mattel was even more crazy. You know, it was like, man, like WWE is like kind of saving this company, which I worked on, but it's like, man, we're not treated like Hot Wheels. Now, when you want to see money, when you get on that Barbie team, Lord, I mean, they making stuff out of real silk. It's like they use them real.
They're making Vans clothes.
They making real stuff, and they got rooted hair. Like each little, like forget hair club for men. Get one of them Barbie like seamstresses and all that. Sew that stuff in your head. You will have locks flowing like Thor. You know what I'm saying? It's like that's money. Like Hot Wheels is money. Like matter of fact, when you walk into the design center at Mattel, you're literally walking in the footsteps of Barbie and Hot Wheels. There's tracks in the concrete. There's footprints. There's high heel footprints of Barbie and tire tracks of Hot Wheels. And it's like, damn, they in the foundation. You know, and then you walk in there and it's like this museum of like real Hot Wheels cars. Like they could start them up and drive them around the block, you know, and it's like, damn, you know, like the budget, you know, and then you're walking through history, like you're seeing like the Viewmaster, and you're seeing, you know, like all these toys that we grew up on from Mattel, like this legacy. And then you got like something like Marvel or DC or WWE, it's like, it doesn't even have that type of, it's just a big difference.
Where's that space? Oh, yeah, there's someone around.
Yeah, so it's like, how do you find ways to compete with that? You know, especially like, you know, coming from a meeting with Vince McMahon, and you're forbidden from saying the word wrestler, which was like, you know, you got to talk about it as superstars or the talent, or you cannot mention certain things or certain individuals, like it's real, you know. So it's like, man, like, how do you find ways to compete with that? You know, so it's like, you know, being creative in your approach, and then with that, you just find creative ways to develop product. You know, but it was, I've been in some crazy situations, man, when it's like, man, you really gotta be scrappy with either your identity or your dollar or your way of thinking to try to make it work, you know, so I've been fortunate enough to work on, like, you know, with Marvel and WWE, and like, when I was in Florida at Jazzwares, working on like Hanna-Barbera and Nickelodeon and stuff like that.
I actually didn't know those Hanna-Barberas were the Johnny Quest.
Oh, Johnny Quest is the best theme song ever, you know, best theme song, one of the best cartoons ever, and if you watch it, they had to utilize that budget too, you know, because like it's some beautiful art, but like Johnny's on moving like this, you know what I mean? They were doing that shit, you know. But then you gotta maximize the, you know, what you have, and you know, it's like kind of growing up the way that I grew up. You learn how to work within that, you know. So you gotta constantly challenge that, you know. So yeah. Anybody else have any questions? Oh, is it the purple gang?
Are you still fluent in Klingon? And if so, could you
I mean, I know.
give us a little bit?
You know, I knew how to say. I knew how to say to be or not to be, but I can't remember how to say it. It's really bad. I forced myself not to learn it because my mom was a super nerd. Like she takes it real serious, you know what I mean? I was like, Mom, I can't do it. I can't roll my tongue like that, you know. But
Not with that attitude.
but I know, and she was very disappointed that I had that kind of attitude. But like I you know, I've forgotten a lot, but I had, like, you know, the blueprints of, you know, the Constitution class, you know, and Excelsior class starships and all that stuff, and you know, I learned how to do. I didn't know how to do karate. I knew Kung Fu. You know, so but yeah, but also too, like, my cousin reminded me of like Spock with his like intellectual side and, like, you know, using logic and all this other stuff. So, you know, Star Trek was always, you know, it's part of my family, but you know, and so, but to answer your question, I don't know a lot of Klingon. However, my mother does, and she would be happy to talk Klingon with you. Just don't say no dirty words.
I don't know any. That's why you could have totally, you know, BS'd your
Well,
way
see, that's
through that.
that's what I wanted to find out, was actually the dirty words first, but
Yeah.
it's like,
That's with any language.
Are there any Klingons in the room for the dirty words?
that's what I'm saying. Nobody told me the dirty words. It's like, I don't want to say comply on time. I want to say poop and pee and those fun words.
Google Translate Klingon.
Yeah, right.
I bet it exists.
I'm sure it
I
does.
bet it exists.
Anybody else got any questions? Go ahead.
What are you involved in right now?
Oh,
Oh,
I'm so
that's
glad
why
you
we're here.
asked that. Now we get to the nitty gritty. Well, because of that, now I'm involved in one of the most successful independent Kickstarters with the Creative Realm. You know, we're bringing Barbarous, what Master Universe should have been. We're doing that. We're also doing, one of the other projects is the Bandito, and the Bandito is one of the coolest things ever, because not only is it a 1/12 scale vehicle, but, you know, it's like bringing that, what we're all missing in that, you know, to this realm, like, into the Bandito. And we also have, you know, Bandito Radio, which is like, if you ever played Grand Theft Auto and you could commandeer a car and listen to all the music stations in there. Well, now, like, so the Bandito actually has a streaming radio station. Like, no other collectible has its own streaming station. So when you're listening to, like, you know, the music on this, done by independent artists coming out from that. You know, we have a show called Myra's More of a Midnight Madness, where we're talking about, like, you know, audio dramas and stuff like that. So it's like, it's a real radio station in this car.
Right.
You know, so with that, it's like Bandito I'm working on. I have From the Realm, and they're doing like a whole different take on vampires, and I'm also working on the Odious from Unparalleled Universe. It's like a crazy mix of Bigfoot and werewolf.
Don't you have that box of stuff? Was it supposed to be in here, or was that another panel?
Oh, I did have a box. I got audiences for sale if y'all want to buy some. But yeah, but it's like it's audience and the Bandito, and it's like no other like comic book company or toy company would give these guys the light of day, right? Mainly because of legal and all. Like no one wants to share like those rights, but it's like working with independent creators. We see something that's cool and with all the knowledge that I have and the connections, like let's make this happen. I know how to make it and like pave the way not only to get you from point A to point B, but actually like have this be part of our collective conscience. Like this, it could fall in line with a Star Wars or Marvel. So it's like, and each one is different. Like each one has its own, like with the Bandito and vehicles, they got the car enthusiasts. With Brutal Realm, you got like, the Barbarian and bringing back like those big muscle men and stuff like that.
And historic cultural warriors.
Right,
And
based on like
representation.
actual mythology. So it's more than just Greek or Norse mythology. We have, African mythology and Mongolian mythology and indigenous mythology, and we're blending it all together. So it's like we can be able to do all this cool stuff, man, in the independent world and bring it to fruition in the product. So you got the Bandito, the Realm, From the Realm, Otis. I'm talking to some other dudes to bring their stuff into fruition, and it's like, Stan Lee had gave me so much, not only inspiration, but actually personally gave me game, like talk to me about harnessing everyone, utilizing everyone's ability to create that synergy. So it's like, when you think about Stan Lee or Walt Disney, or like, all these guys harness everyone's collective abilities to not only catapult the brand, but then you can do your individual thing where each one lives on its own.
One of us.
Yeah, so it's like we got muscle men, vehicles, horror, action, and
Nobody in here collects any of that stuff.
it can live all with, and we're gonna unveil a whole new line. I hope I can say it, man. We're taking over like some pirate type stuff, like forget like Pirates of the Caribbean. Like this is totally different, Skull and Bones, man, that we're actually doing with some guys who actually from the SKN network and everything. We're talking about actually developing a whole new IP, and utilize like pirates in a way, in sea mythology in a way that's never really been done before. So we can blend like not only traditional pirates, but like imagine like ghost ships of like battleships or like the Manhattan Project. Imagine that ship goes into a dimension where it's like crazy off-world, but it's all like a different like sea kind of story. So it's like we're doing all that stuff. It's like, man, if you got a dope idea, like let's do it. You know what I mean? And it all blends in. They can all tie together. You know what I mean? So like using characters like as far as public domain, like Cthulhu, we're creating a whole new character. Like we're working with Advent Comics, that is an independent comic book company, bringing their characters to fruition.
Explain Advent Comics history.
Advent Comics is a comic book publishing company that is independent, started by Tony Cottrell, and it's a black independent publisher, and it has tons of titles, and one of the ones that we're doing is a book called Southside. It features a character called Malone, and we're actually going to have the Bandito show up in
the universe.
Right. And not only that, but the creators of the Bandito, Eddie and Kelly, we're going to be featured in there. So it's like our comic book debut, and it's like it's the tail wagging the dog. Now we have the toy product, but then we're going to have like that toy featured in the comic book, and then featured in the music.
You guys can do that because you're synergizing.
Right.
And you're
like,
a branch, and you're a bridge, and you're working
Right.
together for a common goal.
Right.
Oh my gosh! How about that?
And we can showcase it in places like this, so it's like all making sense, where we can all like really benefit from this story. You know, with Bandito Radio, we actually have like, you know, independent artists, music artists, like delivering the music. You know, we actually have a artist here today, you know, her name is Ray Millie, and she's a featured artist on Bandito Radio, and it's like, who even thought that we would actually start developing like, you know, kind of like a record label or a radio station for this collectible? Who even thought that that connection was even there?
You guys did.
You know, but it adds this real life like validity to it. You know, so it's like we have all these different artists that's celebrating that, and it's coming from like the card creates the soundtrack for your collection. So it's like when we're reading comic books or drawing and all that stuff, music is like kind of like a core thing, you know. And but it's always separate. Now the collectible is actually providing the soundtrack for what you're listening to. No other collectible has that, and it's so dope to actually like excavate that, showcase that, and like, you know, bring in more stuff, you know, more veins of entertainment coming from the collectible. So it's like for us, by us, you know, and you know, all it takes is that extra bit of thought.
Special
Hasbro isn't going to do that, you know, and I'm saying it, you know, in a challenging way. You know, and Mattel is going to do that, so we can do that because we're taking like this independent, you know, mantle. We're taking the charge, leading the way, and saying, hey man, like, why not? What if?
If you build
What,
it,
like,
they
what
will
if
come.
we did it? What if? And that was another thing by Stan Lee. Like, if you just think outside the box and just ask yourself, challenge yourself with the what if, you never know where you can go. You never know what you can do. You never know what you can tap into. You know, so it's so wild to actually see it come to life like that. You know, we're listening to Bandito Radio, and it's like it's on Block 6 right now, but I'm listening when I'm working out. You know, guys are listening to it when they're, you know, shooting photography, you know, with their stuff, or just like hanging back, you know, just chilling, you know, and then listening to the soundtrack of a collectible that was done by people of the collectible world. So that's pretty dope. That's pretty dope. So yeah, man, got some cool stuff on. Yes.
I just wanna say, the Bandito, I've been listening to it, not just cause my artist is on it, but
Shameless plug.
no, I would say the flavor, cause when you originally talked, no, in all seriousness, when you originally talked to me about blending the genres and everything, I'm like, how's it gonna work? You know, you were telling me about it being a soundtrack for the collectible, what have you, but as you're listening to it, if anybody hasn't listened to it yet, I mean, 1 minute I'm listening to, who's the country band you got on there? Scars?
Yeah.
Southern Scars. Love
Southern
it.
Scars, yep.
1 minute you're listening to Southern Scars, the next minute you're listening to,
Noel.
you know, you listen to metal, and then it flips over to a Ray Millie or somebody, and just the blend, it takes you on a journey.
Right.
And then you have the commentary that comes in with the creative talk.
Howlin' Jim Jackson.
No, I want to tell you, it's really an amazing platform when you listen to it, because again, when you first told me about it, I was thinking, well, how's all that going to blend? I understood it in concept, but I couldn't really hear it. But once you listen to it, listen, and like you told me, listen to a whole block, don't skip. Listen to a whole block and just listen to how it flows.
It's like if you watch the
It's
movie
pretty
like
dope.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the Quentin Tarantino movie, like all the Quentin Tarantino, when the music is playing, like he has a specific soundtrack to what's going on. It's totally eclectic.
Sucks you in.
Right, you
Exactly.
can go from like Johnny Cash to like, you know, James Brown, something like that. And it was like, that's how radio stations used to be. You know, they played the B-sides. You know, so it's like, let's actually have a radio station that plays these songs, these artists, like they're the B-sides of like the albums and everything. And what came out of that was creating the opportunity for independent music artists to showcase the stuff. And hey, let's make this a business opportunity. Let's make fair deals for the music artists. Like, not just play their stuff, but actually like, all right,
Back
come
to
on.
that synergy.
Right, like, let's create a revenue agreement where we can actually make this fair, where you guys get the lion's share of the revenue, right? So now it's like, not only are we doing this on a creative way, but now we're actually ushering a whole new way of doing business, you know, which validates and strengthens the whole independent, you know, movement again. You know, so it's like amazing what we got out of that. Like, we got so many submissions, and it's like, man, like, and these guys, like, the music is so good, it sounds like it can actually be like hit singles, like each and every one of them, each and every one of them. So it's like, it's amazing. So, you know, you can go to the Bandito Radio, you can listen to it on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on iHeartRadio. You know, we're actually there. You can type it in, go to Bandito Radio and listen to that. And it's like, and then the audio dramas. And we got like Mikey's Joke Junction. It's doing like comedy shows. And we just got a new partnership with another podcast. So it's like, it's going to be a 24/7 continuous streaming, event, that you can listen to. And we got like great partners, like SKN Network, man, you bringing their professionalism to it. I mean, it's just amazing. We got some dope stuff. Actually, Brutal Realm actually just dropped their new song that's composed by Sam Marshall, like a real composer, doing their stuff as a theme song, for Brutal Realm. We're gonna have that on Bandito Radio. You know what I mean? So it's like bringing in all that synergy, like back, and it's so dope. It's so dope.
Guys, we are over time, and I gotta go do like work stuff. I would like to clap for David Barton. And I'm gonna bounce because I gotta go to work, but if you guys want to sit here and ask me questions.
You can ask me any kind of questions you want. How much time I got before we get kicked out?
Brett, before you run, can we get a picture with you and David Vaughn?
Yeah, let's get a picture. Let's get a